Hello everyone, and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Electra's phone buzzed on the glass coffee table like an agitated hornet. She recognized who it was before even looking at the screen. The caller ID just said Mom. No emoji, nickname, or heart. Just Mom, as it had been since Electra was 16, and she decided that putting a small red heart next to the word felt too much like lying. She let it ring out. The voicemail chime came 30 seconds later. Electra peered at the ceiling of her arts district loft, watching the sluggish spinning of the industrial fan she'd paid $400 to have installed because it appeared edgy in images. She wasn't prepared. Not today. Not after a week on the Forrester runway, smiling through 12-hour days as Steffi Forrester gave her that tight little smile that said, "You're disposable, honey," as soon as your cheekbones sag. The phone vibrated again. This time, a text. "I'm outside." 3 words. No punctuation. Her mother was never very concerned with punctuation when it came to feelings. Electra sat up, her bare feet touching the cold concrete floor. She stepped to the window overlooking Mateo Street and saw the identical gunmetal gray Toyota Camry that had driven her to every beauty competition in the San Joaquin Valley. The automobile had not changed in 15 years. She did not appear to have a mother. Electra buzzed her up. The elevator ride took forever, since the building wanted to pretend it was a converted warehouse, and warehouses evidently despise efficiency. When the doors finally opened, there she was, Dr. Marisol Vega, MD, retired, still wearing the same navy blazer she'd had since Electra's high school graduation, clutching the same scuffed leather purse that had once held orange slices, bobby pins, and the weight of dreams too big for a town of 30,000. "You didn't answer my calls," Marisol stated in greeting. "This is not an accusation. This is just a fact. I've been busy." Electra stepped aside to let her mother enter. Forrester Creations introduced the new range. 12 glances. I closed the concert. Marisol moved by her, her gaze roaming over the loft as if she were counting sins. The massive black and white print of Electra wearing nothing but diamonds and a smile. A half-empty bottle of Casamigos on the counter. The only coffee mug in the sink has been there since Tuesday. "You live like a ghost," Marisol remarked. "I live like someone who has fittings at 6 a.m., Her mother placed her handbag with the care of a woman who still cut hospital corners on bedsheets. "We need to talk." Electra felt it then, that change in the air that everyone talks about in movies but never believes until it occurs to them. The light streaming through the window suddenly felt colder. Her heartbeat went from her chest to her throat. "Mom, if this is about me not coming home for Christmas again, it's not." Marisol reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. It was thick, cream-colored paper that cost more than the average person's groceries. The return address was engraved in gold. Forrester Creations, Legal Department. Electra laughed, but it was brittle. "Are they suing me now?" Breathing too near to Steffi's ego? Marisol did not smile. She held the envelope out. "Read it." Electra accepted it. Her fingers seemed oddly separated from the rest of her, as if they belonged to someone else. She ripped it open. The first page featured a cover letter on hefty letterhead. The words leaped out at her, as if shouting. According to Eric Forrester's last will and testament, direct family members have the right to paternity proof. Page 2. A laboratory report. DNA. 2 profiles placed side by side. One labeled donor, Eric Quinton Forrester. The other labeled subject, Electra Marisol Vega. The match probability is 99.9997%. The paper dropped from her fingers and landed on the floor like a dead bird. "No," Electra muttered. Then louder. "No. This is ridiculous. This is some kind of sick joke." "It's not a joke," Marisol said quietly and gently. "Sit down, Mija." Electra did not sit. She backed up till her shoulders struck the brick wall. "You informed me that my father was a medical student. You said he left before I was born. You told me his name was Daniel." "I lied." The words sat between them, simple yet devastating. Marisol continued, It was 1998. I was completing my residency at UCLA. Eric Forrester came in with chest issues following a gala. They stated that they were stressed. Nothing serious. However, he stayed overnight for observation. We talked. He was charming.
Sad.
His marriage to Stephanie was failing. One thing led to another. It happened only once. When I discovered I was pregnant, I anticipated what would happen if anyone found out. Stephanie would have destroyed me. You were destroyed. So I left LA, went back to Fresno. I told everyone the father was a boy I met in college who refused to have anything to do with us. Electra's lips opened and closed. I opened it again. You let me grow up believing I was insignificant. Dirt under their manicured fingernails. And the entire time, I protected you. Protected me? Electra's voice sounded like a whip. You allowed me to walk into that building every day for 2 years, believing that I had to work my way up from nothing. You allowed me to smile at those individuals while they treated me as if I were a diversity recruit with good bone structure. Marisol flinched. I had no idea Eric would leave something for you in his will. He died before I could. Before you could do what? Tell him he has a daughter. Ask for a check. Electra laughed again, but this time it sounded like broken glass.
God, Mom.
All those years, you taught me that we didn't need anyone. Vegas sticks together. It's just us. And the whole time, you were telling the worst lie of all. Marisol went forward, palms outstretched. Electra, please, don't. Electra raised a hand. Just don't. The silence between them was thick and terrible. Outside, a siren screamed along Alameda. Finally, Marisol spoke. There's more inside the package. The kitchen island where they had pancakes that morning, and she had grabbed half of his bacon while he feigned to be annoyed. He opened and closed the fridge again. Opened the liquor cabinet, brought out the bottle of Maker's Mark they had reserved for special occasions, unscrewed the cap, and set it down undisturbed. His phone vibrated. Electra. He let it go to voicemail. He headed upstairs. Their bedrooms smelled like her. Jasmine and cedar. He opened her underwear drawer because he didn't know what else to do with his hands and discovered, nestled behind the utilitarian cotton pairs she wore to work, a pair of black lace he had never seen before. The tag was still on them. Size small. Expensive brand. He held them up and suddenly dropped them, as if they were burning. Another buzz. Not Electra this time. His sister, Claire. He answered. Hi. How did the big ultrasound go? Boy or girl? Will opened his mouth. Nothing came out.
Will.
It's not mine, he replied. A prolonged pause. I apologize, what? It's the baby. Not mine. He could hear Claire firmly settle down on the other end. Jesus. Will. Yes. Where are you? Home. Is Electra there?
No.
Would you like me to come over? No. Do you want me to not come over but yet come over? He laughed despite everything. Yeah. Actually, absolutely. Claire arrived 20 minutes later with a bottle of bourbon twice the price of the one below and a pizza she'd clearly bought from the corner restaurant that knew their order by heart. She took one look at his face and wrapped him in a hug scented with cold air and the same laundry detergent his mother had used when they were children. They sat on the living room floor. He couldn't force himself to use the couch yet and drank half of the bottle while he told her everything. When he got to the section about the lace underwear, Claire said, That bitch, without hesitation, which made him feel slightly better. What are you planning to do? She asked when he was finished. I have no idea. Are you going to leave her? He stroked his cheek. I love her. I know. She's 6 months pregnant with another man's baby. I know. They sat quietly. Claire refills his glass. Do you want the baby? The query landed harder than the doctor's 6 words.
I don't know, he answered.
10 hours ago, I wanted it more than anything else. Claire put her head on his shoulder, recalling their childhood fights with their parents. You are free to want whatever you want, Will. He yelled. That's the only rule that still applies. Not nice movie tears, ugly, shoulder shaking, snotty crying that left him hollowed out yet strangely serene. Claire stayed till he fell asleep on the rug with his shoes on. He awakened at 3:17 a.m. to the sound of a front door opening. Soft footsteps on the stairs. He laid there listening to Electra move around upstairs, the bathroom, the dresser drawers, and the creak of the bed when she eventually settled down. He waited for her to find him. She did not. The morning dawned gray and dreary. Will brewed coffee because it was a hands-on activity. Electra came in the kitchen doorway, still wearing yesterday's clothes and with swollen eyes.
Hi, she said.
Hi. She looked at the 2 cups he'd set out of habit, then at the couch where he'd obviously slept. I'm sorry, she replied. I know. I understand if you want me to leave. He stirred his coffee, despite the fact that he had not added anything to it. Would you like to leave?
No.
But I'll go if you need me to. He placed the spoon down. Who is he?
She paused.
Electra. Julian, she replied finally. From work. The new art director. Will nodded slowly. He recognized Julian right away, tall, with an English accent, slim ties, and a smirk that said he knew something you didn't. Will took an immediate hatred for him. Does he know? Not yet. Are you in love with him? She gazed down at her naked feet. I was. For 1 minute. Then I was not. Will responded, it's really not complicated. Electra started crying again. I never meant for this to happen. But it did. They stood there until the coffee cooled. Will eventually said, I need some time. Okay. I'm going to stay at Claire's for a while. Electra nodded, wiping her face with her sleeve. He packed a duffel bag with the mechanical precision of shock. When he arrived downstairs, she was seated at the kitchen table, staring at the ultrasound photo she had brought home yesterday. She had again turned it face up. Will hesitated at the doorway. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. Me neither. He walked away. Claire's guest room smelled vaguely of potpourri and dog. She didn't own a dog. He lay completely clothed on the double bed, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars she'd affixed to the ceiling in high school, which, against all logic, continued to glimmer. His phone showed 17 missed calls from Electra, 3 from his mother, Claire must have informed her, and 1 from an unknown number. He opened that one. Will, this is Julian. We should talk. For the baby's sake. He hurled his phone across the room. It struck the wall and clattered to the floor, amazingly unbroken. Days blurred. He went to work because the alternative was worse, sitting in editing bays, cutting a documentary about migratory birds while his own life drifted in directions he couldn't track. When colleagues inquired how Electra was feeling, he lied and answered great. He ran. Every morning before dawn, he ran 6, 8, and 10 miles until his lungs burned and his legs paralyzed. He dropped 12 pounds in 2 weeks. Claire cooked regardless of whether he ate. At night, he drank too much and checked Julian's Instagram. The jerk had a public account for hints. There were other photos, including one of Electra's hand on a table. Her wedding rings were obviously missing, another of 2 coffee cups, and a fuzzy story about live music the night Will was in Reykjavik. One night, he drove past their home. The porch light was off. On the 14th day, Electra texted, May I see you? He wrote yes before he could think, then looked at the word as if it belonged to someone else. They met at the same coffee shop where they had their first date 9 years prior. She looked enormous now, glowing in the way pregnant women do when they're unhappy. He despised the fact that she was so attractive. They sat at a table near the window. She curled her hands around a mug of hot water with lemon, while he nursed an espresso he did not desire. I told Julian, she stated without elaboration. Will clenched his jaw. He wants to be involved. Great. He also wants me to leave you. Will laughed cruelly. Of course he does. I told him no. Will gave her a serious look. There were dark lines under her eyes and her hair needed to be washed, yet she remained the most familiar thing in his life.
Why?
He asked. Because I love you, she answered simply. It's not him. He was never truly himself.
You.
He wished to believe her.
God, he wanted to.
Will, what do you want? She inquired. He remembered the baby's fist in its mouth from the sonogram. He considered teaching a child to ride a bike who may have Julian's eyes. He remembered mornings with Electra's icy feet against his calves, her off-key humming in the shower, and the way she uttered his name when half asleep. "I don't know how to be a dad to a kid who isn't mine," he told me. Electra leaned across the table to take his hand. He let her. "You already are," she said. "You have been talking to my stomach for months. You built the crib. You cried when we discovered it was healthy. That's who you are." He stared down at their clasped hands. Her wedding band was back on. "It's not that straightforward. I understand. But maybe it could be." They sat like that as their drinks cooled and the light outside the window changed. When they eventually stood to leave, Will said, "I'm not ready to come home yet." "I know," she said. "But the porch light's on." He returned 3 weeks later. It wasn't necessarily forgiveness. It was a decision. Some nights, he lay awake listening to her breathe and feeling the baby kick against his back as she moved over, wondering if he was nuts. Other times, he rested his hand against the curve of her tummy and felt something powerful and terrifying rise in his chest. They went to treatment. Lots of therapy. The counselor, a calm woman with gentle eyes and no tolerance for nonsense, forced them to express things aloud that they had been suppressing for months. Electra cried. Will became upset. Sometimes they both cried. They laughed once, something the therapist said about men's egos being surprisingly delicate organs, and it felt like the first honest sound in the house in years. Julian called again. "Will respond this time. I want to be in my kid's life." Julian replied, all clipped British accents and entitlement. "Then you should have kept your dick in your pants," Will said before hanging up. He blocked the number. Electra never asked him to. Summer arrived. The baby grew. Will painted the nursery a gentle green because Electra thought it was comforting, and he no longer trusted his own color sense. He put together a rocking chair, a changing table, and a mobile with little wooden birds that rotated slowly when you pulled a rope. One night in August, 6 weeks before the due date, Electra saw him sitting on the nursery floor, surrounded by half-built furniture and quietly crying. She slid herself clumsily beside him. He reached out to help, but she brushed him off, defiant as always, and wrapped her arms around him. "I'm scared," he murmured into her shoulder. "Me too. That I won't love it enough." She backed away and looked at him. "You already do." Labor began on a Tuesday in September at 3:30 a.m. Will drove through empty streets while Electra breathed through contractions in the passenger seat, clutching the oh-shit handle as if it were the only solid object in the universe. 21 hours later, after every possible intervention short of a C-section, after Electra sobbed that she couldn't do it and Will told her she already could, after he held her legs and counted and told her she was the strongest person he'd ever known, their daughter was born red-faced and furious, with dark hair and perfectly functioning lungs. The doctor positioned her on Electra's chest. Will gazed, speechless. She was little and perfect, resembling neither Julian nor Will, but entirely herself. Electra glanced up at him, weary but bright. "Would you like to hold your daughter?" With tears flowing down his cheeks, he nodded. He handled the baby with caution, fearful that his hands that had edited award-winning films and once thrown a baseball at 85 miles per hour in high school, were not steady enough for something so delicate. She weighed nothing and everything. She opened her mouth in a yawn, revealing toothless pink gums, and rooted reflexively toward his chest. He laughed through his tears. "Hi, Poppy," he whispered, the name they'd selected months ago, after the flowers that grow wild in Iceland, where he used to think their narrative was safest. "I'm your dad." Later, after the nurses had taken footprints and Electra had finally fallen into the sleep of the exhausted, Will sat in the vinyl chair, different hospital, same cracked vinyl, and watched them both breathe. Dawn bathed the sky in the same light green that they had picked for the nursery. He recalled Dr. Halvorson's 6 words and how they had shattered his universe. He glanced at the immaculate, inconceivable wonder in the bassinet and thought, gently but unequivocally, "You're mistaken, document. I am a Forrester. This one is mine."